Hello friends, this is lesson 9 of Big Data Hadoop with Python. In today's lecture we are going to cover the following topics: Hadoop streaming options we have, then commands to run Python programs on Hadoop cluster. If you remember, in previous lecture we wrote a word count program and we tested the program locally. So now we are going to run the same program on Hadoop cluster. So before running the program on Hadoop cluster, it is important to know some of Hadoop streaming options here. So first of all, it is important to provide the full path for Hadoop streaming.jar file. This is important one, friends, because if you remember, in previous lectures we discussed that Hadoop is written in Java, and that is why we are installing the JDK. JDK is installed to provide the virtual machine or virtual environment for Hadoop programs to be run there. That is why we are installing the JDK, and that JDK will provide a runtime environment for all Java programs of Hadoop. So one of those programs here we have this one, Hadoop streaming.jar file, which is nothing but Java program that we have to import, and this is very much important, you have to remember. And for that, how can we write and how can we import that program? You have to use Hadoop and then the keyword jar here, and then you have to provide the full path for that, where this jar file is stored, maybe in different directories. So you have to find this jar file and the full path you paste here, and then the file name here Hadoop streaming.jar. Maybe here the version of that is also mentioned. In my case here it is version 2.6.0. so the version also will be mentioned here. So any version it is, you have to give the full path and here the file name with extension of jar. Then we have different other options also, friends, you have to remember. The first option is the files. Here we have hyphen, then we have files. What is this files here? So files here, it is indicating the mapper and reducer programs to be copied to MapReduce cluster. So here we have to mention these are our mappers and these are our reducers for MapReduce program. And then we have the hyphen mapper. So what is this hyphen mapper or the mapper? It indicates the mapper name. So for MapReduce you have to introduce your mapper. Maybe the name of your mapper is something different, like you are using like this map1.py. But for MapReduce you have to mention that mapper, this one, for this mapper, this is the name which I have given. The same way here for reducer also, maybe you have given some different name like red dot or red1.py, but here you have to mention for MapReduce model that the name of my reducer is red1, right? And then we have input. So it means we have to specify from where the program is reading the input, the full path we have to give, and where we want to store the output of our program after it is executed. So these are some main options you have to remember, because these options are used in each and every program. You have to be familiar with them. Now let's start here commands to run. How to run it here? We have already written the program. So here I will be using Hadoop, then jar, and here in this machine the file, the jar file is stored in this directory, the user, then we have local, Hadoop, share, Hadoop, tools, lib, and then we have here at the end we have Hadoop and then streaming.jar, and this one is nothing but the version of Hadoop which I have installed. And then here where the mapper file is stored. So the mapper file, if you remember, in home directory of HD user, in last lecture we stored the program mapper. So what was the name of this mapper? The name is, here we say hyphen mapper, the name is the same as mapper.py. It was not something different, I gave the same name mapper.py. where the reducer file is stored. So the reducer file is also stored stored in the same directory, home of HD user, and the name was also reducer.py, and this is the name of my reducer. In your case, if you have given some other name, so here when we say -reducer, so you give the proper name of your reducer, right? So where you are reading the input, so I say you read the input from user in Hadoop cluster. There is a folder, if you remember in previous lectures we created a directory called user, and within that user today we are going to put the input file and you read the data from there. Where you want to store the output, in the same directory user, you create a folder called output and you store the output there in the same directory. Now let's do this practically, then you can easily understand this. So for that I will open the terminal by pressing Ctrl Alt and T. So here we have the terminal, right? And I will connect to my HD user, switch user, and I am writing here HD user. So here 1 2 3 is the password. So we are connected and we are coming to the home directory, and then I will go to its home directory by HD user. So ls, here we have, see, I have created the mapper program in previous lecture and reducer program, and here is the input. If you remember, we tested locally, it was working correctly. Let me test it again for those who have not watched the previous lecture, they can easily understand. So I will say cat, right, input, and here since it is Python program you have to use Python here, and then the name of mapper, and then we were using sort, and then I will use again Python dot reducer. So yeah, the program is running correctly here. It is paired and then it is shuffled and aggregated. Here locally it is tested, it is working correctly, there is no problem. Now for working or running the same program on Hadoop environment or Hadoop cluster, before that we have to use GPS whether the services are running or not. So the services are not running, they are off. What we have to do, we have to start the services. If you remember, for that I will use start/all.sh. Now it will run all the services, it means yarn services and also HDFS services, like we had name node, data node, resource manager, data manager, secondary name node. All these services will be running, then we can write or read from Hadoop cluster, right? Okay, I will type GPS. Now see, all the services are running. It means now we can create the folder there or directly upload the file, and then we can run our MapReduce program. So for that I will say okay, Hadoop, if you remember Hadoop fs/ls, whether we have anything there in this directory or not. Yeah, if you remember, these were the directories we created in previous lecture, dir1, and here we have this one, dir2, dir1, new directory. These were something what we practiced in previous lectures, right? So I will today I will create a new directory and say Hadoop fs, and then for that, if you remember, we were using the command make directory. Where you want to create the directory, okay, you go to user, and in the same user you create HD user, a directory, new directory, right? Yeah, the new directory is created. Let me see whether this directory is created or not. Yeah, here our new directory is HD directory is created. Now what I will do, I will first upload the file there. This is the file. So you know how to upload the file into Hadoop environment. Okay, I will do Hadoop fs. We were using a command called put. So this put is used for uploading the file from local to HDFS, and if you are using git, it means we are downloading the file. Let me upload the file. I say put, where we want to put the file. So what is the name of file? Here it is input.txt. You upload this file to user, and within this user we have something called HD user. You upload the file there. Now the file is uploaded. Let me check whether it is uploaded or not. Yeah, I will go to this HD user and see whether the file is here or not. Sorry, HD, sorry, spell is wrong, HD user. Yeah, we have the file. Input file is uploaded, it is here. If you want to see here by using the browser, from here also you can see the file, it is already uploaded. Okay, here we will be using localhost. If you remember localhost, and this is port number, and then you come to utilities, and here we have browser, here we have browse the file system. Here we have the user. If you remember, if I click on this user, I have another user called HD user. If I go to this HD user, this is the file which I have uploaded. It is here, right? The file is correctly uploaded. Now how can we run our MapReduce program? Let me clear the screen. Okay, first I will be reading my jar file, and for that I will say Hadoop jar. Where the jar file is, so I have to provide the full path where the jar file is located, and this was yeah, it was in user, right? Yeah, I say user, you go to local, and there we have Hadoop, right? Hadoop, spelling is Hadoop, and then we have folder called share, and then again we have Hadoop, right? And then tools, and then within that we have another directory called lab, and here I have Hadoop, right? Streaming. See, it is reading the file. It means the file is there. Up to here you understood. Now I'm using backslash here, and now I'm writing here files, from where I want to read the file. So the first file, I mean the mapper is, where the mapper is, in the home directory of HD user, where I created a program called mapper, right? So what is the name you want to introduce this mapper to the MapReduce model? Okay, I say mapper, the name is same as mapper, it is the same. So then again backslash, then where is my reducer? So again I say file, reducer is also in the same directory, home, HD user, what is the name? Reducer. What is the name you want to introduce this to MapReduce model? So I say reducer is the same reducer, right? And again we will come here, and I say you read the input from where? User, and then we have HD user, and reading the file which I uploaded already. What was the name? The name was input.txt. So input.txt, this was the name of file which I uploaded. So now where you want to store the output? So I say the output, right? And then we want to create the output in the same directory, user, HD user, and you create a new directory called output, and you put the file there, the output file within this output directory, right? Now I will just press the enter button. It will run the program, and then we'll see the result if there is no error. Yeah, it is taking some time, friends, because it depends on the program and also the size of data what we are running on. So here for the first time mapper is how much percentage? 0%. Reducer is also 0%. Now the mapper is completed 100%, and now it is checking for the reducer. So reducer also completed its task 100%, right here. So both became 100%. Here it is showing us the job is completed successfully, right? So for that, if we come to the last here, it is giving us the reference where the output is stored. It is saying, okay, info streaming job, okay, streaming job output directory is what we said, user, then HD user. There you create a directory called output, and within this output directory you put the the output file. Let me go to the same directory whether the output is created, the file is created or not. Hadoop fs, I say ls list, you go to user, and then we have hd user, and we have the output. Spelling is correct or what? hd user, spelling of this, sorry for this, user. Yeah, so friends, this one is the output, this one is the output, right? Not this one. So this one is the output created. Now how to see the contents of this file, whether it is applied, mapper is applied, reducer is applied or not, and for that the same Hadoop fs here. Since I want to see the contents of the file, I will be using cut command here. You go to user, and then we have hd user, and within hd user there is a directory called output, and within that we have something called port followed by 50, right? If I run this, we will see the output here. See, this is the output. It is mapper is applied, reducer is also applied, and we applied both the mapper and reducers. And here this one is important, friends, you have to remember the jar file from where you are reading. This is the full path, but in your case I don't know where you are installing it, so you have to provide the full path for that. So we then talked about the different options here, like files, we have input, and we have output, where you want to store the where you want to read the input and where you want to store the output. So what is the mapper and what is the reducer, what is the name for mapper and what is the name for reducer. These things you have to give, and then press enter button. It will be reading your file, and then it will store the file, the output, to the directory which you have mentioned, right? Let me go here to the browser and refresh the page. See here, directory is created output. If I click on this, see two files we have, and this is the output. If I click this, from here you can download the output also. But if you are downloading the file here, what you are doing? Yeah, I want to download and see the bring the output to the local system. For that, Hadoop fs / I will say get, instead of port I will say get. What is the directory? Okay, so user, hd user, and there we have a folder called output, and within this we have something called port, then followed by 5 zeros. Where we want this file? I want to download it to home directory of hd user. Now if I say ls here, you see the output is downloaded to the local directory or local system. If I want to see the output here, simply you just type the cat command and then give the name of file. It will be reading it here. So at the end you have to stop the /all, then sh, all the services will be stopped. It means the services for HDFS and the services for ER. So here you also checked, and from here also you can download the file, and this is if you want to see it like graphically using the browser, also you can do this. So this was the way how to execute or run the program on Hadoop cluster. We wrote the mapper and reducers, and we understood all the options, like we have files, inputs, outputs, and jar file you have to provide, and then you can easily run the program. And this was the way how to run. I will exit here, right, and then I will close the browser as well, right. So these were the topics we discussed today, and I hope you understood, friends.